Well, as we start this new series this morning, we begin in our Into the Light series by thinking about the darkness that we all have been experiencing. You know, over the last year and a half, we've had our lives unexpectedly turned upside down. And as a consequence, we found ourselves asking a whole host of questions. And whilst we have kind of emerging out of lockdown, and some of those questions have been tentatively answered, we're still left with lots of unanswered questions. Questions like, will the vaccines actually provide a long-term solution to this pandemic? What about all the variants that are now occurring in the world? Will I ever be able to travel again? Will we ever live in a world without COVID? How will my children be affected by this? How will this affect the trajectory of our lives? And how will I come to grips with the loss that I've experienced throughout this time? And so all of these questions are being raised for us, along with a whole host of other questions, as we find ourselves in a world characterized by chaos and uncertainty. It's as if a great shadow has passed over the world and over our lives, drowning out the light. We can't see the future as clearly as we did before. The things that we once took for granted have been stripped away. Our experience of insecurity and uncertainty in life has increased exponentially, and along with it, the anxiety that it inevitably evokes. We are a people, if you like, walking in darkness. And so we ask ourselves the question, well, where do we find hope in the midst of all this darkness? Now, this was the same question that the people of God were asking themselves in the time of Isaiah. They were a conquered people. The northern kingdom of Israel had been destroyed by this time, and only Judah remained, the southern kingdom. It remained as a remnant of God's people who continued to experience oppression at the hands of foreign armies. Their kings had failed them by turning away from God to idols, and as a result, they had experienced slavery and oppression. Their existence and future as a people was precarious and uncertain. They lived in the shadow of uncertainty, death, and despair, having lost everything that had brought them security. The question was, where will hope come from? How will we cope in a world full of such chaos, full of such confusion, full of such uncertainty? It's the same question that we ask ourselves. And you know, as human beings, when confronted by the darkness of uncertainty, we typically try to cope in either of two ways. We either try to control it or we try to escape it. You know, there are some of us who use control as a means of coping with life's unexpected challenges. We might try to find security by controlling situations or events, by putting rigid routines in place that cannot be altered, or by demanding that our environment be just so. We might find ourselves only engaging in relationships where we can exercise a measure of control over others, using them for our own desired outcomes. Or we may control what others see about us, trying to project a particular image or reputation about ourselves. However, one of the inevitable outcomes of this coping mechanism is that our worlds become inevitably very small as we find ourselves controlled by our own controlling behaviors. On the other hand, there is the temptation to try to escape the reality of uncertainty. And so we might try to numb ourselves to life's challenges by turning to substance or to food or to sex for relief. We might try to retreat into other worlds by binging on the latest Netflix drama or spending endless hours in video games or on YouTube. And so we engage in mind-altering or body-numbing behaviors that take us out of reality so that life seems better in the short run. But eventually, life's uncertainties catch up with us because we can't avoid them forever. Now, I wonder which category you would put yourself in. Are you someone whose instinct is to control, or is it to escape when you feel threatened by life's uncertainties? The problem is that neither response ultimately works. Why? Because no matter how hard we might try, we cannot control the uncontrollable, and we cannot escape the inescapable. We cannot eliminate uncertainty, nor can we hide from it forever. But what if there was a third way? What if there was a way of acknowledging the uncertainty that you cannot control without withdrawing from the world and losing hope? What if there was a way to not be overwhelmed by the darkness of uncertainty, but to thrive in the midst of it? Isaiah writes to the people of God and to us, for those who are living in the land of deep darkness, a light has dawned. He brings a prophetic message of hope. And he goes on to explain that the dawning of that light is the birth of a child. God's response to everything that has ever harassed us, tormented us, terrorized us, everything that's invoked fear within us, is to send a child. Hope for the people of God and for us doesn't come through controlling our situations, nor does it come by trying to escape them, but rather it comes to us in the person of Jesus Christ. It's true, is it not, that when we face the darkness of uncertainty in our lives, that what we really need is a confident hope and a faithful friend. In other words, we need to know that there are better things to come, and we need someone who is trustworthy to help us along the way. The good news of Christianity is that Jesus Christ is the light of the world, who is the answer to both these needs. When Jesus died on the cross for you and me, he did it so that we could have a secure future. A future that wouldn't be affected by death, by pain, by the unexpected and unforeseen, by the frailty and brokenness of humanity, but one where all the broken things of this world, all the painful things, all the hard things would be ultimately dealt with. And when Jesus rose again, it meant that we could have confidence that this kind of future was guaranteed. Isaiah writes of the greatness of his government and peace, there will be no end. He will reign on David's throne and over his kingdom, establish and upholding it with justice and righteousness from that time on and forever. The Bible teaches that those who come to Jesus find in him a confident hope that though the present is uncertain, our ultimate future is not. It teaches that because of what Jesus has done on the cross and because of his resurrection, we can know for certain that the ultimate story of our lives will turn out for good, that there is a king who reigns forever, and that there is a kingdom that will never end. Do you know, Jesus offers us even more than a secure future. He offers us to be with us along the way. Isaiah describes him as a wonderful counselor and an everlasting Father. In the midst of life's darkest moments, what we really need is a friend who loves us and truly understands what we are going through. A friend who we know is completely for us and who completely accepts us with all of our fears and anxiety. A friend who can both comfort us and at the same time who has the power to lead and carry us through this present darkness with all its chaos and uncertainty. Jesus Christ is a friend like that. He's a friend that would die for you in order to be with you both now and forever. In this life, we cannot control the uncontrollable, and we cannot escape the inescapable, but we can find peace in the Prince of Peace and light in the light of the world. We can put our lives into the hands of Jesus Christ, the one who knows the future and the one who wants to walk with us along the way. For as Isaiah writes, he is our wonderful counselor. He is our mighty God. He is our everlasting Father, and he is our Prince of Peace. Now, I wonder what you're struggling with this morning. Maybe you find yourself in a desperate situation right now, feeling overwhelmed and overcome by your own circumstances. And maybe you're weary because you've been trying to control the uncontrollable. Or maybe you're someone who feels keenly the emptiness of trying to escape the inescapable. If that's you, I want you to know this truth this morning. that Jesus Christ wants to bring to you his hope and his help. All you have to do is invite him into your situation and circumstance. So I pray that you do that this morning, that you experience his hope and his help for this day.
Mm.